Now, we'll quickly get on to our first speaker, which is actually me. So I already introduced myself. But so after each speech, we'll have if we have time, we'll do a Q&A. So please feel free to think of questions as someone's talking, and hopefully we'll have like an extended discussion based off of what the topic was and what was interesting to you. We will have a mic being passed around, so just raise your hand and the mic will come to you, just like magic. And if anyone's felt like they didn't get the plus pass, but would like recordings to the presentations, you get recordings of all the 3 different tracks. Then feel free, you can upgrade your pass, and again, you can do that at the registration desk. And I think that's pretty much it. So good morning, everyone, and we'll get started. I am the first speaker, so I'll just switch gears here to get ready to talk about my talk, which is on the human touch and really what's the line of what's too creepy. So we'll have some fun with that. All right, I think this should work. All right, so over the next 20 minutes, I'll talk about how to navigate the world of conversational AI when it comes to drawing the line of what's too human and what's not human enough. I feel like we've stayed relatively true to the human spirit in this industry so far in the mass market. Obviously, there's some projects out there like USC working on their Holocaust projects where it's millions of dollars. But as far as the mass market goes, the technology is still relatively new and trending. And we've also found ways over the last several years, particularly through the pandemic times, to exponentially increase and deliver excellent customer services and experiences through this technology. Obviously, room for improvement. So, as we all know, we're teetering on the edge of making big advancements with this technology to keep on progressing on this journey. Those of us in this room are probably close to conversational AI, which is a very niche and specific field. And, I think 3 years ago, the title of my team, for example, conversation designers, didn't really even exist. We had to even tweak the title after I joined a bit to make it sense and, industry okay, because the industry really wasn't official. So today, we will first, it works, yes. We'll first go into talking about why talking about the level of human is important and what our line about it is. So this is going to be slightly interactive and will really depend on the audience inputs to help come up with this definition, because this is a new topic. This is something that we haven't really figured out or bridged too much into in this industry, as we're still sort of figuring out how to even be quite good or okay at answering questions and understanding intents. So we'll require your thoughts. So it's morning. Hopefully everyone's fresh and has some applicable topics to talk about from their own experiences. Then we'll take this turn into talking about how we can bring this to the table in our own worlds and how we do that currently. And I will share how we do it at GoDaddy to give some concrete areas of what our overall principal discussion will be. So now this conversation can take wild turns depending on what we sort of come up with here as a group. So hold on to your seats and we will have some fun, hopefully. All right, I think, there we go. Okay, so from my perception, there's long been a fear of robots taking over the world. Movies like The Terminator and series like Westworld leave us with a sentiment that machines are scary and can eventually beat us humans at our own game. So this is Terminator 7. I think just the fact that there's 7 in the series says a lot about how much interest there is from people on this very thought, right? And here we find ourselves in an industry developing these very machines, often with the goal of making them so good that they're human-like. We got a bit of tastes of this yesterday with the wonderful Google presentation and some of the others, and I did notice some folks in the room kind of cringing a bit at certain moments. And right now the technology is not so super good yet, right? But we will get there eventually, and it's good to have these conversations so we can begin to develop our own thoughts on how we should be moving forward before it's too late. So by show of hands, how many of you in this room have been asked when you say you work in like AI, machine learning, or bots or whatnot, is it like, oh, you mean like in Black Mirror? Or you mean like in Her? Has anybody been asked any sort of question related to any movie a person might have seen or a TV show? Yeah, I see one hand over there. Which one? What did people ask you? Her, yeah. Anybody else? Yes? Yeah. Very interesting. I used to get asked a lot, especially with my company that I had, you mean like Black Mirror? Because it was like, a grandparent could come up on your Alexa and tell life stories. So I got lots of questions about that as well. So as we move forward and things get better, we have sort of a responsibility to humankind to make sure we develop machines in a way that sets us up for the future in a positive way and not a destructive one. So what is that? Here we have 3 images. The column A is what we really see a lot of right now, which is, a virtual assistant who is a character potentially with a name that represents the company, much like, Erica at Bank of America and some of the others that we see out there. So I would say that's a little bit like right now. Column B is when we start using people who exist and turning them into, like celebrities, for example, and turning them into saying things and doing things that are not what they actually did, but, a bot version of them did. And there's different types of technology, including the kind that we work on that yield to that. So I understand there's more than just that. So this is Brad Pitt talking in Lord of the Rings, which he was not in. And then column C, we have, a full robot who can speak with you, maybe be your girlfriend, and really has like the full capacity and intelligence of being able to interact with you in a human-like way. So everyone can pick one. So it'll be A, B, or C. B will include, B. If you pick B, means you're okay with A and B. If you pick C, you're okay with A, B, and C. So what do you personally feel comfortable with? A, B, or C? That'll be what we answer. So for everyone who feels like A is their comfort level, raise your hand. Okay, so we got a good number of people there. B. Oh wow. Okay, we got one. C. Wow. Well, isn't this interesting? So we have a room where almost half the people who answered were in A, and then the other half were on the other side of C. So now we kind of understand why this is such an important conversation, because we can really be going 2 different ways, right? Okay, so fascinating. Follow-up question. What do you see as where we are today? And maybe we agree a little bit more on this in the mass market. So what's out there available to like the general public, not like in development and secret projects and stuff. So A. A-ish, okay, A-ish, all right. B. Okay, cool. So a few more. And C? Okay, yeah. I think we all agree that C, we're not there yet. B, maybe we're sort of on our way there, kind of there in some ways. And then we are at A for sure. Okay. One more question. How do you think people, so maybe not yourself, but just the general public, based off of what you've noticed, will be comfortable in like 5 or 10 years? Their acceptance, like one of the points we heard about earlier from our audience. What do you think people will accept in, let's say, 5 to 10 years from now? A. Okay, B. All right, C. Fascinating. All right, so what I just saw with the answers there was we had the most on C, second in B, and nobody in A. So if we take kind of what we just observed, what we personally feel comfortable with, straddled between A and C, where we think people will accept is mostly on the C side. So this could get more interesting as we continue on our conversation. I will go a little bit into how at GoDaddy we think about it. And actually, before I go there, I'm going to go back. Not ready for that yet. All right. So a little bit about GoDaddy. So as many of you may already know, might have heard that name from advertisements, and if you're from the US, they do a lot of Super Bowl ads. So GoDaddy has an award-winning customer support team. So we are known to be really good when people call in. They enjoy the conversations. Our guides, we call them guides. Our customer support folks are called guides. They are very energetic, and truly when you talk to them, you feel like they care about you, they're helping you, they understand your needs, and they seem to really enjoy their job, which is not always the vibe you get when you call a customer service rep. So I was a longtime customer of GoDaddy myself, even 10 years before I joined them. I used them for hosting for some of my own businesses and whatnot. And anytime I needed help, I really felt that personally. And one of the things they even did was they would call me whenever they thought that I might be at a struggle point. And I remember 2019, right before Christmas, they'd sort of call to just check in, like, hey, we noticed this, like, do you need any help with that? And the irony of it all was, it was never like a sales pitch. It was never about, do you want to like upgrade a product or whatnot. I always found it to be very helpful. So to focus on like how we apply this level of humanness to the world that we're in, I'll give you an example of our customer-facing chatbot, which everyone is able to interact with on our website. This is the team and vision that I lead, and it was really a monumental task to lead a team of conversation designers and working with technical folks who, we sit within the department of customer support. So we're essentially trying to emulate this amazing experience in a chatbot. And excuse me, as most of you know, chatbots right now are just not that smart or cool or quirky or fun. Like oftentimes, they just don't even understand what you're asking them. So it was a hard standard to live against. And I also had the onus to not tarnish the integrity of the guides who worked very hard and to make it clear to the customer who they were talking to. So here's kind of what we did. If you don't, just give me a minute. I'm just gonna get some water. Oh. A little break. Thank you. All right. So here's what we did. We first upfront called ourselves a GoDaddy bot, so keeping an easy pathway to reach the human in the chatbot experience. So our goal wasn't necessarily to prevent people from contacting a human. Our goal was to be there, and if they wanted to talk to a human, they could. But we were there also if they wanted to, avoid queue lines, for example. And we recognized the bot wasn't smart enough to do certain things. So we understood. Apologies. I have had this hacking cough. It's not COVID. Don't worry. I tested. Okay, so we understood that in order to remain excellent to our customers, we had to value the role of actual people who can help them. And human connection has a value right now that's distinctly different than machines, and to capitalize on those moments. So hold on to that thought of what moments can mean and what that could look like. So one problem we ran into was getting the person to the right kind of guide when connecting them to a human. Now this was important to the customer experience because when they needed help and we kind of knew what they were talking about, we sometimes needed to ask follow-up questions in order to get them to the right person. And when you just want to talk to a person, more questions is very annoying. So we sort of figured out, based off of the anticipated frustration level of the customer, when we should be asking these and when we shouldn't be asking these. So for example, if they went straight to typing human, they got straight to a generalist, and then they would be moved on to someone else if that was necessary. If they were patient enough to answer all the questions, then they got directly to the right person. So the moral of the story is, with so many people aiming to avoid a human in a chatbot and so many companies trying to make it very difficult to get to one, it's easy to understand why a person could think that we were simply trying to create another barrier and not believe it was really for their own good. Now, if more of us did this, maybe people would start having some more faith, or if our bots just understood things better. So kind of going on the moments to capitalize on, the type of scenarios we found great success for the chatbot were simple tasks, when customers wanted quick resolutions, and manual, easy-to-dos that required little or no thinking, troubleshooting, or diagnosing. The kinds of problems people could run into in the GoDaddy world with websites can be very simple. Somebody who's a business owner who wants to do a simple task, but they're just not a website builder, so it's a quick answer for us. But it could also be very complex. Some of you who might have built websites in your own time, some of the problems can really have a lot of different steps, and it can get really complicated. So understanding what those lines were, and when it becomes too irritating to be doing that over a chatbot versus with a person. Obviously, the best way is sort of one of the points mentioned earlier, where the chatbot can kind of help make a decision and do the task for them, which is something that we're working on. So this kind of brings me to the heart of our discussion, which is so interesting, where it often feels like if people understand that the company's intention is in their own interest, then they tend to act open and to be receiving of extra questions or whatnot. But when they don't feel that, and they feel like there's some other different motive than what they might be having themselves, they close down and get frustrated. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that companies shouldn't be benefiting. They should, and ideally it'd be a win-win. So let's go a little bit into how we want to truly think about this. So if businesses are there to support customers, and if customers are supported, then usually the business wins. So if we start to think a little bit more communally and less selfishly of what's delivered, I think we can generate results that are 100 times better. If the deliverable is better, the company does better. And I feel like we run into this backward thinking oftentimes, where the business wants to make money, and especially with the economic situation in tech post-pandemic, there's sort of a desperation to take over and forget that by serving the customer well, they gain their loyalty and more business, and therefore serve themselves. I think it's obvious, but sometimes seldom practiced. And I will say, actually, let me pause for a moment. How many of you in this room feel like your company has this sort of win-win mentality, where it really is focused on the excellent customer experience, especially with conversational AI? It's really about having a great user experience, so that everybody has a winning, everyone wins? How many of you feel that your company thinks that way? Excuse me. I see a couple hands. Okay, well, how many feel like your companies don't think that way? I see a little bit of this going on. Okay, very cool. Thank you for sharing that. So, oh no, this is my old slides. Okay. In conclusion, so if we can value the role of actual people and understand where human connection has its power and is distinctly different than machines, and capitalize on those moments, then we can really build something truly remarkable. So I know many of this room from yesterday's conversations and just talking to you, are working on very cool endeavors, and I wish everyone the best. I encourage everyone to sort of think about this topic more. I think it'll develop over time, and encourage and challenge you to help drive as leaders and builders and creators in this space that's new. And oftentimes, maybe you're guiding that light for the folks in your teams, to be that person who really helps foster an environment and build something that really, fits aligned with what you think is appropriate. And If you want to connect with me, that's my information. But I'll end there and open it up to any questions. Thank you.